Welcome to the Art and Void podcast, a sacred domain to elevate artists, mind, body, and spirit. We're artists committed to embracing our calling, guided by spirituality and self-development. I'm your host, Jesse Dvorak. If you're passionate about elevating yourself as an artist and connecting to a broader community of like-minded individuals, you're in the right place. Don't miss out on more fun, deep, sexy, and spiritual insights by subscribing to the newsletter at artandvoid.com. You can also follow along on YouTube and Instagram, where the handles everywhere are Art and Void. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming Gia Zinovoy to our podcast. Gia is not only a professional actress and dancer and fire performer, but we can go into some of the history as well with video production. But I'm really interested to talk to Gia about the spiritual artistry and the elements that she incorporates with fire, the primal imagery in her dance performances, both solo and with the dance group Aya Serpent. And her connection to her spirituality and unique expression through movement make her a captivating and inspiring figure in the art scene around Los Angeles and California in general. So join us as we welcome the cosmic, the radiant, sensual, and creative force, Gia Zinovoy. Gia, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I know you have a bit of a background and transition into really what was like your first love, right? And that it's dance. And so can you talk just about kind of the way you went from your younger years and loving this dance, but you maybe like got diverted away, and was there kind of any spiritual calling back to what you're doing and primarily now with your dance and your performance?
Sure. Yeah. So I started dancing when I was very, very young. Like my parents put me in dance
Mm,
classes when I was 2. I, started doing competitive dance when I was 8, and I did competitive dance from 8 to 18. So mostly ballet, jazz, contemporary, lyrical, which now in these days, you mostly see me do jazz and contemporary. Those are like my heart and soul. But after I was
mm,
18, I wasn't really allowed to pursue dance. I had to go to college. I had to kind of give up that dream dance. My parents were very supportive of me doing it as a hobby growing up, but not so much when I was done. So that's when I went into doing sort of circus arts and started being around fire and sort of other performances when I was like 19. And I worked really deeply with hula hoops, actually. I have retired that, but that's a whole nother story of kind of like, that's what I learned from training in that is sort of what you also see in what I'm doing now. Um, but in terms of the spiritual aspect, over the period of not training in dance, I technically took about like 10 years off of the training that I was doing to what I'm doing now. And I really lost myself. I didn't realize how much dance was a part of my identity, and doing that for 10 years, well, more than 10 years, but like really heavily training for 10 years and then being forced to being like, okay, that was fun. Like, now
mm,
it's time to go to school and get a real job and join
mhm,
society. I like had this identity crisis of like, well, everything else feels like a consolation. Like that's my like deep connection
mm,
to God. Then how can I refine that? And I really went to like a dark place. I got in a really bad car accident in 2017, which actually forced me to stop movement completely for years. I had uh, injections in my back. I had a back brace, like all of this stuff. And so I had to really quit. And I really just, by the end of that, felt so lost, felt so depressed, and then had a really bad breakup, which kind of catapulted me back into movement because I was just like, I need to just do
mm,
something with my body. Like, even if like I would just, I was a server at the time. So I would like serve till late, come home, just put on some music and improvise in my room. And that was sort of like my form of meditation and releasing
mm,
my anxiety. Because for me, I didn't initially see dance as something that was like spiritual. I had grown up, had to go to like Catholic school, never found God in church, anything like that. It wasn't atheist or really agnostic. I knew there was something, but I didn't really connect it in that way. And dance for me was always like, it was meditation, but I guess because I wasn't seeing it from a spiritual lens, it was just like, I'm just obsessed with dancing and it's my favorite thing ever. And it's all I
mm,
ever think about. It's all I ever want to do, And so
mm,
tapping back in after just a really rough few years, a really rough breakup, a really just yeah, having lost myself, dance sort of helped me kind of come back to that And then when I moved to Los Angeles, I still actually had no plans to be a dancer. I was only doing print modeling, not even doing commercials either. I was just like, I'm just gonna, I've done everything I can do here in Florida, and I'm gonna make the jump and move to LA because I can't do New York. Like, I need more nature.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I had always dreamed of living in California. And so picked up all my things, moved here. Then the pandemic hit. So that was interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to retrain myself to
Hmm.
see where it takes me. Like, I'm in LA, like, I don't know. So I started retraining to dance, and I had started a meditation practice around 2020, like a more consistent one. And that's sort of when
Hmm.
I started kind of connecting the dots from more of a spiritual perspective and seeing the impact that it has on my subconscious, and the connection that I have to God when I'm dancing and when I close my eyes and when I listen to the music and I connect to the music, and how yeah, like where that takes me. And then, joining with Aya Serpent, that was kind of the other thing. Like, I retrained, and then this opportunity came out literally out of nowhere. And I was like,
Hmm.
yeah, why not? Like, I can work less at my
Right.
part-time job and just perform at this little, you know, Russian restaurant on the weekends or whatever, because that was where I had started. And yeah, tapping in with Aya Serpent and Karina, who is our director. She's incredible. I can talk about her as well. She's just an unbelievable human and creatrix, and
Hmm.
I'm so grateful to work with her. And yeah, what we do now, incorporating the fire. The fire actually didn't come until uh, I was working at this Russian restaurant, because I was in the circus show, so there was aerialists, and I was just dancing and doing some hula hoops, and there was a fire performer, and I was like, oh, I could do that. That looks like fun,
Hmm.
And so yeah, I just kind of started playing with fire a little bit, and then ended up jumping into a residency, and the rest is history. And I can talk about fire. I'm sure you have other kind of questions I can guide further into that, but that's the dance aspect of it.
Yeah. That
Sorry, I know that was
so
like a
there's so
long
many.
tangent. It's like 10 stories, but
That was really no, it was really interesting. And there's so many pieces of that that I actually think are interesting. The part of, I mean, you've came back to dance as like healing. Sounds like, even through all these things of turmoil, just finding the joy of it and your connection to God in it. Do you think that is that a unique experience to you? And then I guess what I'm getting at is, should I dance? Should I be
everyone
dancing
should
more?
dance. Everybody should dance. Some people have told
uh,
me they're like, I don't even dance in my room because like I just feel stupid and I don't know what to do. And I'm like,
uh-huh.
no, it doesn't matter. I think like if you have a dance background, there's a different uh point that you can access, I guess, but that's just
Mm,
because you have a deeper vocabulary. And if
yeah, that makes
you've been
sense.
like training not only in your studio, but then you do
Yeah.
competitions all year, and then you go to convention and you take class from the best people in the world, all of the like famous choreographers, like just taking class and doing stuff with them over the years, like you're going to expand not only in terms of what you can do with your body, but how you can approach a story. So for me, it was very therapeutic because I had all this pain, all this heartbreak. I was super depressed, just pushing through. The only light at the end of the tunnel was knowing that I was moving to LA, and I was just getting out of here and just starting over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how I felt. And so for me to come home, I would specifically choose music, whether it was like a singer songwriter or something R&B, something that was really like this heart wrenching story, or a betrayal, or like whatever the story is, and being able to
Yeah.
tap into that story and like essentially use your body as a vehicle to express what the singer is expressing, or the writer, whoever. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's like a deeper form of therapy that anyone can access. Like, I could teach that to
Mm.
you so that you could access it. Like, it's available for anyone. But in terms of how I used it as like a therapeutic approach, that's sort of what I did during that time, at
And
least.
that's
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, I could definitely use more vocabulary with that. I mean, I have my own spiritual practices, and I understand. I mean, I'm a musician, so I understand like kind of feeling the vibration and the energy kind of moving through you. But when I see the footage of you dancing, it's like it's different. It's very different.
Oh,
Like
thank you.
it's hypnotizing, and it's um
I think
and
with
it's so
fire, I get to
fluid.
be like my
And with
sassy side,
exactly. So actually, that's interesting. Let's go there, because was that I actually have a song called Fire that's interesting too. And there's that element of it that it brings out that more primal nature, or maybe something more fierce. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you just kind of mentioned being more sassy. But is there something to that kind of emboldened you and helped you kind of feel more courageous or more confident in some way?
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends on the music. Like the music lights up different parts of whether it's my heart or my mind or
Mm,
my soul, or just like touching my soul, whether it's a story. But it could honestly, it's the music. Like once the music comes on, I completely shut off and I almost blackout's not really the right word because I'm like
hmm
so present, I'm so sharp,
hmm
but I'm so
hmm
on with the music. Like that's it doesn't even matter. I could have like the worst day and then I get on stage and the music start, or I could be, well, I'm always nervous right before I go on anyways, but like right
mm,
when I go up, as soon as the music hits, like something comes alive in me. And that's the spiritual aspect of it too. It's like that
yeah.
powerful, courageous part of yourself comes online, no matter which part. I could just, Gia, calm, collected,
hmm
talking to you. And then once the music starts, it's like this, like, it's not an alter ego because it still is very much me. Like I'm like a
Right.
sassy
Yeah.
little spicy thing, but it's yeah, it really just it depends on the music. The music really is what moves me, and
hmm
I've always been a huge fan of jazz, like in jazz movement, and
hmm
it's a party. It's so much fun. It's so expressive, and so I think that's another thing. I just really, really have always loved performing in the style of jazz, and you guys get to see that when I perform it. Like you can just see how much fun I'm having, or like if that makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. There's, I don't know if it's the same, but yeah, like if I'm getting on stage to perform, it like what you're saying, it is you, but it's also kind of beyond you. I don't know if channeling is the right word or
No,
not,
I
but
feel
it's
like,
sort of
yeah, it
like,
is a
yeah,
chance, especially when you're incorporating fire. Like, because me just
yeah,
dancing in jazz, like, I'm really connecting with the music. I'm having like the time of my life, essentially. Like,
yeah,
whether it's two people watching or 200, like, that
mm,
part also escapes me. Like, I'm completely just in it with the fire.
yeah,
Um, but the fire definitely, like, brings another part of myself online for sure.
mm,
Like, I don't know what it is, but there's just something about that element that I really, really
mm.
connect with and have a really, really deep respect for.
Yeah. I can. There's something, the imagery of Eye of Serpent and what you're doing too with that fire, that just, I think ancient and primal is the kind of the best way to see it, because humanity, we're always just sort of react to fire in so many ways. We just have like this instinctual impulse. Oh, there's fire, and I'm hypnotized by it. It's dangerous, and it's kind of brings your senses online. You feel very alive, and so even as someone who'd be watching that, I see it and just be like, oh, what's going to happen? It puts me on the edge. It's sort of a sense of consciousness as well. That's kind of like, pay attention, put away the distractions and be arrested with this element that we've been trying to subdue and also trying to utilize in many ways, and also been fascinated with artistic things in so many ways since, as far as we know, going back thousands and thousands of years. So those are me just kind of throwing out ideas as you're talking, some of the ideas that are coming to mind.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
it's different when you're I guess from what we've seen in terms of fire performance, I
mhm,
really feel like obviously more traditionally the Polynesian is at least I think the first fire performing that I had seen. So that's like in Hawaii, where they're using I guess you would, I don't know if they call them stabs as well, like double stabs, or if they have a different
mhm,
term for them, but sort of you see more of like spinning and throwing and almost like a baton, and then
Mm.
now you have like flow arts, and people are using fans and other things. And so I really tried to sort of see like uniquely what I can bring to fire performance, and what kind of shapes that I can sort of
Mm.
create, and the like what kind of stories I can tell. Like instead of like just saying like I'm on fire and here's some tricks, like okay, no, like I'm very intentional about the
Mm.
music that I'm picking, like how it's going to impact like you, the viewer, like what kind of
Mm.
story am I telling, and like how am I utilizing the fire, how am I starting, how am I in the middle, how am I beginning, what kind of emotions do I want to bring out of you, versus like I'm just going to go up here and she's going to light me up and like I'm just going to entertain you. You know, I'm
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
thinking about the different elements of it, and sort of what shapes I can create with the background that I have. And also just to note with Aya Serpent, like what you see visually, like this is it's a very much a collaboration. And Karina has been doing Aya Serpent for like over 20 years. She's originally a performer. She's a snake performer. And so she has a
Mm.
very large albino python, and whose name is
Mm.
Aya. And that is who the a lot of people think it's like it's named after ayahuasca, you know, because that's like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
trending now. But actually,
Yeah.
she has a snake named Aya. So that is sort of where that name came from. But she has been performing since she was a child, and then she has been working in groups under the name Aya Serpent for over 20 years. She's a costume designer. She does all of the video footage for the most part,
Mm.
and just knows how to put on a show and production. So everything that you
Yeah.
see behind me with Aya Serpent is very much like, it's not just me. Like I'm very much, we're a small team, but I have to give credit for that as well, because what you see with me in the fire and everything is very much a team
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. It's so stunning. I have to see you guys live
Yeah,
next time I
yeah.
can. The You mentioned something that I think would be really interesting is there's you perform your craft and your creativity as this connection to God. You'll do this no matter what because it is you, and this art lives inside of you, and you love it, right? But then there's also your performance and what you hope, as you're describing here, what you hope your audience gets from this. Is there any particular thing that you would hope, whether it's one song or another, in the stories that you're telling? What is it your desire to create and communicate, and uh, how do you hope to impact people through your art?
Sure. Yeah. In terms of what I want you to feel, it depends on the venue, because the venue is going to dictate what kind of
Mm.
performance I can have. So something
Mm.
like a restaurant sort of lounge, like how I was
Mm.
performing at that spot La Mesa for about 2 years. That was sort of like I had a stage, but I still had to navigate everywhere, so everyone kind of got a little piece of performance. So in something like
Yeah.
that, I just want to evoke joy and wonder and
Mm.
excitement. You know, like I'm going
Mm.
from zero
Mm.
to 1,000 for about 4 minutes, and I just want
Mm.
to make you smile, make you just excited, and like I want to make you feel special. I think that's something that,
Mm.
regardless of the venue, I love to make people feel special. Um,
Mm.
and a lot of times, if I still have a flame left, I'll kind of like just let my heart guide me to somebody and let them sort of make a wish and blow out my torch for me. So that's something that I like to do in terms of, and just connect with people. I used to be a performer where I'm like, I'm a stage performer, and you know, lights are on and you do the thing and people are watching and whatever. Because of the different venues that we perform in, I've really had to adapt in terms of connecting with people, and just seeing how much of a difference that makes when you take a moment, whether it's at the end or even during, if people are comfortable enough for me to come up really close to them, that I give them that moment. Because if they're willing to be present with me, like, and not, you know, be recording it with their phone, then that's
Yeah.
something that they can really walk away with, and I hopefully remember and make an impact, and maybe inspire them to
Mm.
step out of their comfort zone or try fire, or I don't know, just be like, you'll never guess, I just went to dinner and guess what happened, like, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
connecting with people and making them feel special, and yeah, just having really beautiful energy. The thing that I love about fire that we've kind of discussed within Eye Serpent, that I think sort of brings the magical element to fire as well, is that fire is something that can nourish us, can keep us warm, can literally
Mm.
keep us alive in certain situations.
Mm.
But it's also something that can destroy everything in a matter of seconds. So we have this deep respect and this deep just performance with the fire that we do. And we really, I say a prayer every time before I go out, and I
Mm,
really have like just really deep respect. And I think that also comes off as well to people when they're watching me. Like they know that I'm in like union with the fire, because the
hmm.
moment that you're not in union, like that's the thing. Like people will ask me like, oh, aren't you scared? And I'm like, no, because if you're scared, that's how you get burnt. Like the fire will react to
Mm,
your energy. Like if you're scared,
hmm.
the fire's like, oh, and then you hesitate and then you get burnt, you know? So then people are like, oh, have you ever got burned? And I'm not like seriously burned, you know? And
Mm,
because you really have to take it seriously and respect it. It is a major element of the earth. So you have to kind of like navigate it in that way, not just like, go take some mushrooms and spin these fans and like hope
yeah,
for the best. It's like, no, like it's like
yeah.
earth, air, wind, fire, like, like that's like ancient. Like you have
The
to,
core elements. Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah.
you have to really have respect for it. And so that's
Honor
something that
it.
I try to bring
Yeah.
in my performances as well, that I'm not just lighting up and doing a little dance or whatever to entertain you, that like I'm really like in union with this fire every time I go out.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Bring honor to it and
Yeah, respect.
connect with it. It's a real relationship, is what you're describing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And, it is like a relationship, because when you change props and you're learning new things, you have to sort of build up
Yeah.
and build this new trust with the
Yeah.
element. And, as you gain your skills and sort of are able to do like larger fire, like that's another thing too. Like you are building this trust with this element as
Mm,
you're growing with it, as well as you're growing together.
mm, mm. I could have this. I want to keep talking to you forever about this stuff. This is really interesting to me. But this is a podcast, so we have
Yes.
to like keep things moving along.
For sure.
But this is really interesting. We got to chat a little bit later because I don't know if you guys have ever come out to the desert. It seems like a great place to perform, but obviously you have to be a lot of honoring of the fire too out here. It's pretty dicey. It's so dry out here. But
For sure.
have you guys ever kind of performed out in, I don't know, deserty spaces? And I can imagine the elements in the element, especially under the stars and things like that, be pretty magical.
I haven't performed in the desert with Eye Serpent. I did
Hmm.
perform at my friend's event, Loot. Shout out to Loot. They
Okay.
hold, it's a Persian community. They host an amazing
Hmm.
event out in the desert. Um, and they do it twice a year. So they do October and April. And so in April,
Okay.
I went out there, and they have just, it's just so simple and so beautiful. And they have amazing music. They don't even drop the lineup. Everyone just trusts that it's going to be this incredible experience. And we all meet out
Yeah.
there. And so I spun some fire for them in April. But there is something that may be coming up for Aya Serpent in the desert next month, but I
Cool.
can't say anything yet. So I'll just
Okay.
drop that
Okay.
little
Okay.
seed.
That's
So
awesome.
you may see
All
us in
right.
the desert
So,
very soon.
well, with that in mind, we're gonna segue into the final section, which is the creative confessions, and so we'll drop your information so people can follow along and be updated with those news bombs that are coming their way.
Sure.
Um, so part of this, as part of the podcast, is called Creative Confessions, and this is where you can share a surprising confession or story just about your journey as an artist, something maybe you've never shared publicly, or just a forbidden idea. Sometimes we have these little forbidden ideas that we want to do artistically, but won't totally admit them or think they'll never happen. So just kind of curious if anything's coming up to mind for you. So, Gia, what is your creative confession?
Gosh, I mean, I feel like the only thing that can really come to mind is like people see what they see now, and they meet me how they see me now. Uh,
Hmm.
but they don't know that it really took me a long time to even reclaim the identity of being a dancer, because of being forced to give that up
Hmm.
and not see that as an option. And then various injuries, because I had the accident, but then I had other issues. Like once I started retraining, like injured my shoulder, and then, injured my foot, like all these other things
Hmm.
that I'd be like, oh, oh, I'm just doing commercials or I'm just doing dance on the side because it's like helping, help me pay my bills or whatever. And then it turned into this whole thing. And really having to fight with that identity crisis again. And so I
Yeah.
think just to know that I too have struggled with my journey as an artist and sort of finding my own footing and finding what I'm supposed to be doing. And it might look like I have all of these things together as everyone else does, but I'm, on the same path, figuring out as I go along, trial and error, years of no's, closed doors, even with modeling,
Hmm.
commercial, everything.
Hmm.
It's,
Hmm.
you see the big gigs, but it's like, hundreds of auditions and everything in between. So yeah,
Yeah.
just knowing that I'm on the same path as everyone else, no matter what you see on the internet. And I'm a pretty private person, so I don't really like share that much. So
Hmm.
that's, something I'm trying to do a little bit more of, which is why I'm here today. But yeah, just I guess that would be my confession that yeah, what you see on the internet and how you might meet me now, like I really have gone through quite the journey to get to this place where I'm at today.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I think, I mean, the same with me too. And so you don't, you want to share the wins, of course, and the things you're really excited about. But yeah, that can oftentimes paint a perspective. Like all the emails I've sent out for gigs that, like, I know I'm qualified for this, didn't hear back, and there's a real struggle part of this too. But and with that, the wins and the moments of breakthrough are really meaningful. They because you persisted and you grew in that time and had to fight demons of the mind and all of the doubts and things like that. So
For sure, even
I
when
appreciate
all
you.
of the
Yeah.
odds are stacked against you, if you know that what you're doing is the truth of your heart and that is what spirit is
Yeah.
telling you, like there's been many times where I'm like just hanging on by a thread emotionally,
Yeah.
spiritually, financially, all
Yeah.
the things. But there's just something in me, and that's my connection with God is and spirit and universe is that I know I'm on the right path. I know I'm doing the
Hmm.
right thing. You just have to keep
Hmm.
going and be persistent. And if your intuition is telling you that this is what you're meant to do, just keep going, like really keep going.
Yeah. And I'll add to just a little of my experience of there's been so many times where the door has been shut on my face, door has been shut on my face. And sometimes I feel like that intuition is saying, go in this other direction, like trust your artistry a little bit more, as opposed to maybe just trying to find something that's going to be a fix and kind of alleviate some of the stress, whatever it might be. For me, it's been like, I just got to get a job, just got to get a job. But then a lot of times it's like, maybe I just need to lean a little bit more into my own artistry. And then something magically opens up as soon as I do that. It's happened quite a few times. So,
Yeah. Like they say, like
yeah,
you could
just,
be 6 feet from gold before you get, like most
yeah,
people are 6 feet from gold when they give up because
yeah.
it's just that last little it's like what sacrifices
Hmm.
am I making? What, it's like if, the job well is a drought at the moment, then the only place I'm going to is the grocery store and the gym to train for a few months, and that's the
Hmm.
sacrifice I need to
Hmm.
make for my art, so it's like we give and take as long as you put yourself in the position for success. Like, if I was living in Florida and I knew that I was at my capacity for what I could do in my career, and I was like, okay, if I want to take it to the next level, if this is my dream, I need to be in LA or New York. So then it's like I put myself in
Hmm.
that position. Didn't know
Right.
anybody.
Yeah.
Pandemic hit 2 weeks later. I could
Yeah.
victimize myself then and say, "Oh, I'm never gonna make it." This, that, but it's like, no, you just keep trucking. You keep trucking. You keep trucking, and
Hmm.
you find yourself on interesting paths along the way. But then it's like at the end, you can look back and be like, "Wow, I'm so glad I didn't quit."
Hmm. Absolutely. Gia, I'm really honored and blessed to have you on the podcast. And I'm sure after hearing you talk so passionately and beautifully,
Yeah, I'm very
people,
passionate.
yes, we need the passion. That passion is where that source of energy is we're drawing from all the time. So bring that
I'm
passion and
like,
inspire it, and people like me who need to dance more.
oh yeah, I'm Aries
Uh,
Sun, Aries Venus. I'm like full of passion.
Um, for those who want to see what you're up to and connect with you more, what would be the best way to go about that?
Definitely Instagram, Gia, so GIA underscore ZI. It's just the easiest
Mm-hmm.
way to remember my last name. So
Mm-hmm.
GZ. And that's pretty much the only platform I'm on. I'm like Threads, X, all those are just things to take me away from
Yeah.
the present moment. So I just don't even
Yeah.
really use them. TikTok, I'm not really on there either. So yeah,
Likewise. Yeah.
definitely Instagram would be the way.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you for joining us in this episode of Art and Void. We hope that you found some inspiration and insight from the conversation that will inspire you in your artistic endeavors. Remember that the void is not an emptiness to be feared, but a space of infinite possibilities waiting to be explored.
Thanks for having me.